I'm Claire Parker.
And I'm Ashley Hamilton. And this is Celebrity Memoir Book Club, the podcast where we read the books and we tell you what's inside of it so that you don't have to read it yourselves.
And boy, what a service it has been. Ashley.
Yes, Claire?
Do you have any giant secret news, world-changing news, pod-ending news that you'd like to share with the group?
You guys, we have made a fairly earth-shattering decision that we've been sitting on for weeks, maybe months. A few of you have guessed it, but this is the second to last episode of Celebrity Memoir Book Club.
The penultimate episode, some may say. Before you freak out, do not worry. We will be back sooner than you could even predict. We will be back with a brand new, even better podcast that will launch September 9th. So you will not be without us for too long. And if you miss us so much, we will be dropping Patreon episodes the whole time.
This is a really exciting time. We have been looking for ways to incorporate everything that you guys love most about CMBC, everything we love most about CMBC, and to make it something just like bigger and better and more exciting. And so that's coming.
Yeah, we've been listening to what you've been saying. We've been reading the DMs. You guys request. You cannot believe how many things you guys request that are not specifically memoirs. And so we just want to do everything that you guys want us to be doing. We have so much fun on the Patreon. If you're not a Patreon wormy yet, we just have the time of our lives over there. And so we're really excited to grow and come back fresh and be new. And so this is not a goodbye, but a see you later. And just a quick warning that countdown starts now. 2.
Countdown starts now.
Counting down from 2, and we're at 2.
I think we'll get a bit more sentiment next week, but I do want to say thank you guys so much. This podcast has fully changed our lives, and we are so grateful to all the wormies who have been worming along the way.
Anybody who's listened, anybody who's come to a show, anyone who's said hi to us on the street, anyone who's DM'd nice things.
Yeah.
It really has been so much fun. I hope you guys have had fun. It's been a joy, even though there have been some like really sad books.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a lot of fun crawling through people's darkest pasts, but thank you so much for everybody who's listened, who's tuned in. We appreciate you guys. And we're just so lucky to get to do what we do because of you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. We really love you guys. And we're really excited to really be back in the saddle with you guys
sooner than, I mean, really. Some people would call it just a regular vacation. We're taking like 2.5 weeks off, but we will be back with something that I think you're going to love even more. And I hope you guys join us.
A new name, a new face, a new vibe. But what if I got a whole new face?
As soon as you said that, I said, wait. Stop the presses. Should I be getting a new face for the new pod?
Maybe.
I know the most important part of the podcast is what I look like. Should I start fresh so it sounds different?
Yes.
I would. You know what I've always wanted to do? You know, I have like a lot of like hyper specific things I want to change.
Of course.
And one of them is like famously, I hate how unwhite my eyeballs are. That's a big problem.
Oh, dye your eyeballs.
Well, you know what I've always wanted to do? Whiten my teeth. And I actually do think that would come across on pod. I think that would be like an audio shift.
Okay.
I've always wanted.
Me too. I think you would sound much clackier.
No, you're not picking up.
No, like the chattering of like a.
No, I think it'd have more to do with the spit situation because I think my teeth would be rubbing up against my lips. But I want a whiter bite.
Okay.
So keep your eyes peeled. I think that would actually be a slow and steady Invisalign situation. Invisalign, if you guys would love to give me, I want whiter, not whiter. Wider with the D teeth.
Well, you guys, we love to leave you with a mystery.
Like I want the teeth to be closer to the ends of my mouth.
No, what I mean by a mystery, I say, what will Claire's teeth look like next?
Hopefully, I would go wide and white.
Well, tell me about your week.
I've been doing nothing but preparing. You know, I'm leaving literally tomorrow as of recording. I'm leaving tomorrow for Greece and then Edinburgh. And so I've been thinking a lot about my hour. I've been prepping for it. You know, we've been winding down this podcast. We've been gearing up this new podcast. Now that I'm doing things like getting my lashes done, I'm exhausted. I'm now in this gel hell where it turns out if you want to get gel nails, you have to get them taken off by a professional. Otherwise, they'll rip your limbs right out.
That's so true.
Like getting caught in a car door of sorts. But I've been rocking and rolling, busy, nose to the grindstone. What about you, Ashley? Anything about your week? Are you prepared to miss me?
No.
I know. You know what I'm really excited for? I feel like the Patrons are going to be fucking insane.
It's so
because we'll
fun.
be genuinely catching up and we won't have time to stop to like edit out names. And I'll just be like, I have to tell you all the shit I've been seeing.
I'm so excited to hear about it. I'm so excited to find out how it is. I have a couple trips planned. I have a couple little things here and there. Oh my God, my recommendation is Tyler, the Creator's new album.
Oh my God, no way.
It is.
What's it called?
It's called Don't Tap the Glass.
Sure.
You would love it.
Claire Parker?
Claire Parker.
Oh my God, I'll check it out.
You have to listen to it. I listened to it 3 times on my run today. It's only 28 minutes long.
Okay.
Between my run yesterday and today, I've been listening to it over and over and over again because, I mean, and he put out a note with it where the point
Didn't
is...
he just put out a new album recently?
Yeah. The mission for this album is to put down your phone and move your damn body. And you feel it because I didn't know that until after I'd listened to it twice. And then
you just felt the compulsion.
I felt it. I said, I love this music. It makes me want to put down my phone and move my body. And that was his direct intention. Listening to it, being like, wow, if this song comes on at the club, the way that I'll really try my hardest to shake whatever ass I have.
You could shake your shoulders, I think.
I'm going to shimmy my shoulders for sure.
You have got jangly fingers.
Yeah.
You could, like a skeleton, kind of xylophone those guys.
I'm going to. And I can't wait.
You could bat your eyelashes really, really fast.
Until they clang.
And I'll bring my new wide teeth.
Yes, chomp them together. I want to do that thing how cartoon skeletons dance where you just bang all your bones against your body.
It's like the robot, but spookier.
Anyway, I guess, should we get into
the second to last ever episode?
Yeah.
It was a bizarre one, you guys.
This is a tough book to read.
I'm going to do an intro. We are doing Nick Carter of the Backstreet Boy fame and the Carter House fame, facing the music and living to talk about it. This book came out in 2013 when he was about 33 years old. He was born in January 28th, 1980, a nice round number. This book we have not yet done because it seemed too hard to get a hold of. We were under the impression, Ashley was.
I wasn't under the impression. When I went to buy it the first time, like 2 or 3 years ago, there was only one copy available and I bought that one. And then I never looked again.
Okay. She's like, they're really expensive. So I looked and I said, there's a bunch on Amazon right now for $30.
Well, when I looked from my computer, it was $90.
I think it's really interesting that they're like...
dynamic pricing.
Yeah, price gouging you. Luckily, I guess I don't do as much work. So they had no idea that I had anything to do with this podcast and they sold it to me for a normal amount of money. They sold it to me for a book's worth.
That's crazy. How dare they?
Why don't they know about me? Bezos? Is it because I was so flattering about Lauren Sanchez on the Patreon that he was like,
she can have the Nick Carter book?
So we got it. This book was put out before Aaron Carter died. So 2013, that would be about 12 years ago.
I think Aaron Carter died in 2022.
So predates that by a lot. And a lot's happened since. And I have to say, we are watching the Carter documentary, talking to Troy McKeady from Beyond the Blinds and doing some research for the Patreon this week, just because when I say this book tells but an ounce of the story, I am talking about there's an ocean of story and this book tells about an ounce of it.
Yeah. One man's piss in an ocean of story.
You read it and you go, this is a weird book. And then as Ashley kept texting me things she was finding out about the family, I was like, oh, this is an insane book.
Yeah.
This is a crazy thing for him to do. I wonder if he's buying up all the copies. No, he doesn't have that kind of self-awareness, huh? He doesn't.
Yeah. I think he thinks that this is like a really great self-help book to self-help people.
So this is one of those books, as Ashley just said, it's a self-help memoir.
So he does that thing that we've read before where they insist that everything they do is a lesson that you can learn. So he'll be like, and there I was performing on stage for 20,000 people. And when you encounter a situation like this or similar, just anything where you're stressed really, or like, I don't know, he'll be like, you know, when you're arrested for drinking, but you're a famous person, so you don't want to be seen. And so like you might encounter similar situations like this and it's like, just stop making the comparison. It's fine. Trust that people can make inferences.
So the book starts with a foreword by fellow Backstreet Boy member Howie Dorough. Do you think I said that right?
I have a confession to make.
I never heard these names before in my life. I had only heard of Nick Carter. The rest of these, I was like, who are the... I guess...
I knew about AJ McLean.
I had heard those letters.
I knew AJ. I actually don't even know if I'm saying the last name right.
That being said, I think Black and Blue was like an album that I fucking loved.
Millennium and Black and Blue, I think that these names are like ghosts to me, but if you put those albums on, I think I could sing every single word.
What's that song where they're calling from
The Call.
The Call. That is a song.
I'm going to a place nearby. Gotta go.
Okay, you know me, I rarely listen to music, but I suddenly was put back into my high school body training for soccer and using like my dad's Walkman. I'm sure I wasn't. Or maybe it was early, but I feel like I had a CD player, baby, or whatever. But I was listening to that album and that song just over and over again. It was the only thing that could pump me up. I think I love Backstreet Boy music, but I only know about NSYNC Boys.
Okay, so that's what I was going to say is my confession is, when people are like, are you NSYNC or Backstreet Boys? You've got to pick one. I'm like, I don't know, man.
You know me. I was so gay when I was in 5th grade. I really was like, why would I want to fuck any of these disgusting losers? So I never felt part of a team.
I never felt part of a team. I also just like really didn't have like any parasocial like compulsion towards any of. I didn't know. I was like, this album is really good. I also like No Strings Attached.
I really was like, is it Britney? Is it a Spice Girl? Is it a Beautiful Lady? Then get them out of my face. Why would I want to fuck these men? They're disgusting.
I remember getting Millennium as like a present for performing in my dance recital, the CD, and I would listen to it all the time. But the faces, I just remember they were all wearing white and standing on like a tarmac in their music video. And that's all I can possibly recall. And that might not even be true.
I was looking at the photos of them and I was like, what do you mean Nick was 12 and the oldest one was 21? In what world should a boy band encompass 9 years?
I also couldn't believe how much they look exactly like Du Jour from the Josie and the Pussycats.
You forget that men really were out there spiking their hair like they were Hades. Like they were a gunky little Hades. Yeah, none of these faces are ringing a bell.
You really could just get away with not being handsome.
Well, it's the cheerleader effect, right? If there's 5, it's like, and they're moving so fast. And we didn't really have HD back then. So you're looking at these squiggly little men. There's so many that your eyes are darting everywhere. They're dressed the
one
same
of them's
and
wearing
they're far
tiny
away.
sunglasses. One of them's got a goatee. You're not even seeing much face.
God, that Nick Carter, I'll tell you, not my cup of tea in terms of sexiness. But neither is Justin. Neither are any of them.
I just think pop boy is not your
It
taste.
really isn't. Unless it's, who sings Oh Vicky or Oh So Icky? From Fairly Odd Parents. I thought he was cute.
I don't know the answer.
Yeah, that one I liked. But some could say that doesn't count. What with him being a cartoon?
Well, that's a hater then.
Who's a hot pop boy?
You know that I don't think famous men are that sexy because I don't like a man who thinks he's so sexy that he should be famous for being sexy.
Even if they get got when they're 12.
I don't like it. I don't like the energy.
You should have known better. You should have been working on being mysterious, Justin Bieber.
I like to turn the tables on you don't know you're beautiful.
Oh, I actually think one of those Direction boys as an adult could get it.
Which one?
I'd give it to any of them, No, you know who really does it for me? I always used to think Shawn Mendes was very good looking.
Okay.
I think he's a handsome fella. I really do. I said, that's a nice looking young man. Do you disagree?
Okay, Nan. Let's get into the book.
I couldn't imagine having sex with him, but I think if he was my son, I'd be so proud of him. That's how I felt. And I like that Zayn does hard drugs. I find that sexy.
No, me too.
And so I think that one has edged him up in my eyes. But Harry
I like
Styles,
the way he's gone to blows with Yolanda.
She is a Dutch slut. She's only fucked like 3 people, but her heart, she's slut in a bad way, not necessarily in a promiscuous way. Okay, sorry. Back to the
plot.
Anyway, so it starts with a foreword by Howie Dewey. And he's like, when I met him, I was 19 and he was 12 and I tried to take him under my wing as like a big brother, but he was so fucked up. As we've grown older, we've definitely grown more reflective. A while back, we even started to read self-help books, looking for answers to our individual challenges in life. And then he goes, yes, celebrities definitely have those too. And I said, buddy, do I have a podcast for you? It's ending soon. But let me tell you, we know that celebrities have challenges.
We're aware. How crazy is it that Nick Carter was like a 13-year-old in a boy band whose buddies were buying him self-help books regularly? He talks about, he says Kevin and one of the other ones, Kevin and Howie, were always like gifting him self-help books. Imagine how bad of a place he has to be in.
I don't think they were giving it to him at 13, but I think once he started like really crashing.
I think he was like 17 years old with a shelf of self-help books from his bandmates.
Yeah, Claire? Try it again, Claire.
Self-help books.
Okay, so then there's an introduction. It's like, here we are. We're performing for millions of people, he claims. And he goes, in Central Park. And I said, really?
Millions?
Then he's like, it's the 20th anniversary reunion tour of Backstreet Boys and everything is amazing. But how did I get here? Healthy and happy and full of love and life and gratitude? Well, it's been a long and arduous journey.
What I try to remember is that we never know what's possible in our lives. So that's like advice for you. He goes, I never knew that I would be in Central Park performing for millions of people. So you don't know what's possible for you.
I nearly checked out several times before I accepted that I was worthy of a better life and then committed myself to pursuing it. If I hadn't finally taken responsibility for my own happiness, I easily could have missed out on BSB's 20th anniversary, or worse, missed out on the rest of my life. There's no more direct way to say it. Mixing drugs and alcohol and engaging in other self-destructive behaviors nearly killed me. So this is an interesting book because I think what he must have done is found like a textbook on the side of the road
and then added his own stories
like
to it.
7 times. He was like, if I had 7 stories, nobody will know that this is a textbook.
Yeah. So he goes into how this book was inspired by the passing of his sister, Leslie. So Leslie was the 3rd oldest sibling. It was Nick, BJ, Leslie, and then Aaron and Angel.
Aaron Carter, I didn't know this was a twin. I had a twin sister.
I think I might have known, but it was buried deep in my mind.
It wasn't present. It doesn't feel like one of the things you know about him.
Yeah.
Although, granted, I have to be honest, don't know much, except for that he beat Shaq, and he had an awesome house party. And he 2-timed Lindsay Lohan and Hilary Duff. Wow.
Icon.
A couple of goats.
I guess. I don't know that much about him, but he was so much more present for me than Nick Carter. So it's
he was our age.
He was our age, but it's also just the way that he writes about Aaron in this book as like another one of his flailing siblings. I'm like, well, Aaron Carter was so famous.
He was so famous, and he wants candy.
And same.
Was he also an actor?
I mean, he acted really well in that episode of Lizzie McGuire.
Okay, but he didn't do like a Disney original with like skateboarding or something?
I don't think so. But don't quote me on that.
Sure. We have to take Nick's word for it. And what Nick's word is that
he was present sometimes or not.
What Nick has to say about Aaron is that if he's guilty of anything, is that he cared too much.
Anyway, so this book was inspired by the passing of his sister, Leslie. He has a lot of weight on his shoulders that he wasn't able to help her. She was dealing with a lot of addiction issues. She's had a lot of problems throughout her life, and they were not on good terms when she passed. He never, I don't think, is ever fully sober, but he gets himself much more sober than he was when he was doing a lot of drinking and a lot of drugs. And he wishes that he could have written this book before her passing to help her.
Mm-hmm. He feels very guilty that she died, which I understand. If a sibling dies, that's so hard, especially if you have money. And I think what had happened is he had been giving a lot of his money to his family, and then he cut them off for valid reasons. One, a child shouldn't have to support their family. And 2, it seems like everyone in his family suffers from addiction. And I do think when they're like, no, what I need is more money, that's not really what
at a certain
true.
point. He knew he was just enabling drug use.
But then he goes on to say that actually he didn't even go to the funeral because his family was outright blaming him for her death.
Yeah.
Saying that it was his fault because he didn't give her anything. And I guess she had also gone on Twitter and like done publicity stunts on Twitter saying that Nick won't give her money to try to guilt him into it.
So he really wants to have this book out there to help other people who are going through addiction.
Yeah.
What I will say is since this book came out, he has 2 other siblings who have passed
So I guess
because of addiction.
The book didn't
do what he hoped.
So he says, before you can heal, you have to understand where the hurt comes from. In the case of us Carters, it comes from a very particular kind of family dysfunction. Members of our family have a tendency to say things without thinking first. So this is one of the crazy things in this book is at the time of writing, he's in this like anti-victim mentality where you have to take responsibility for everything. So he doesn't want to like quote unquote blame his family too much for his problems. So what he gives you is that they drank a lot and that they can like be quite cutting with their words. And I'm like, okay, 4 of the 6 siblings have died. It has to be more than like, I'm like, no, this is like a fucked up family. What the fuck happened in that family?
Yeah.
It's more than just like, he's like, you know, my dad liked to have a couple of beers after work and that's when he was in a good mood. I'm like, no. What the fuck was going on in that house?
What the fuck was happening in that house? I mean, every single one of you had like a significant substance abuse problem. He writes a lot of what he's learned in therapy. I didn't invent this stuff, by the way. I'm not claiming to be Dr. Phil or Dr. Oz or Dr. Ruth either. Most of the guidance and advice offered in this book has been around for a long time. You may be familiar with many of these methods. And it's like, yeah, no, I didn't think you invented thinking.
So he starts talking about Leslie, and he says because she was just a year and a half older than Angel and Aaron, she always felt and explicitly said that she didn't get as much love as the other two kids because people weren't as excited about her because they were twins. And that was like the beginning of her pain. Also, I guess after the success of Aaron, they tried to get Leslie a record deal, and she actually did get one, and she put out a single and it did well. But then they canned her entire album because they said that she had a weight problem.
She was like 13.
And then her mom lied to her and said she was going to send her to camp, and it was actually a fat camp.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so Leslie has some like very valid.
She doesn't
gripes.
have like random feelings of unworthiness. She has been told explicitly by the industry that she's unworthy. And like
it sounds like her mom was like, well, listen to the industry. If you want to be worthy, you better lose weight.
Yeah.
Again, it's sort of like a family curse. We all seem to want to be famous, yet we don't feel worthy of fame. I guess that's why chaos is such a part of our story.
The first step to changing your life is to change your filter. That means deciding no matter what happened to you in the past, you still deserve the best of what life has to offer. To help yourself feel worthy of success, you need to understand the experiences and influences that have contributed to the particular life filter you have in place now. Like, it's so insane that he's sitting there being like, anyway, Leslie was like pimped out to the industry and then rejected whole cloth. That's the filter that she was looking at life through.
No, I mean, this book is very like, I know all self-help books can be quite simple, and I feel like sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But this is so matter of fact and ridiculous considering the fact that there's still so much. Because I mean, Ashley looked it up and she's like, he's been accused of rape so many times.
Yeah.
Like, this is like a deeply fucked up person who really great. Share your story. I understand that you're in pain, and I think you have come from a difficult place and are struggling. But to already be writing a self-help book is crazy. And it's like, it just sounds so crazy because he's like, I wish people could have just taken more accountability.
Well, especially because by the end of this book, when he's talking about the reunion of the Backstreet Boys in Central Park and whatnot, I think that was in 2012. This book came out in 2013. He got clean, I think between like clean-ish. Again, I don't think he ever got fully sober. He got like clean adjacent between like 2010 and 2012. So he is like 3 years out of significant drug abuse at most, telling you how to live your life, having never even gone to an actual rehab program.
My relationship with my brother and sister was toxic in many ways. We weren't good for each other, even though deep down we love each other. This is all very, very sad to write about and sadder to have experienced. I still grieve over Leslie's death and the fact that she died before we could come together on good terms. So his big advice is rise above. The problem is that Leslie never learned how to rise above. We can change our lives by changing our attitude. We should never live with a victim's mentality.
Because she continued to abuse drugs and alcohol while I was trying to cut back, I was afraid to be around her. I was worried about her, but honestly, I didn't know how to protect her.
So that's the end of chapter 1. And then at the end of each chapter, he leaves a lined page so that you can write down your own personal notes in case Nick Carter is the first person to ever say this kind of stuff to you. And I am thinking like, who is picking up this book and getting inspired? Because it also feels deeply like written for men. It's very much about how men don't like to go to therapy. Men should be going to therapy. Like men think this. And I'm like, are there a lot of men picking up Nick Carter's memoir?
Okay, so my fear, and I don't want to diagnose him with anything, so I'll go with a general disorder that I call Jax-Taylor disease. And it is, I think, like a significant personality disorder where he like really had to be told that other people have feelings and interiority. Like this whole book is him trying to be understanding and being like, when you do something, other people can be affected. And my therapist told me that. And I'm like, what do you mean?
I thought you were going to say he has Jax-Taylor disorder of like, you have two modes of you're screaming, you're freaking out, you're manic, you're like having an episode, or you're being so apologetic that now you have the higher ground. Like you're not just sorry for what you did, but you're sorry and you've learned and you're ready to teach.
Well, both that too.
You know what I mean? I'm either like spiraling and beating up a cop and lying underneath the city bus, or I'm letting you know that I wish you could have risen above like I did.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's what this whole book is. I just am trying not to say like he's like a full-blown like histrionic personality disorder, but I do think that there are just like certain elements in this book that really freak me out because he seems so unaware until someone said to his face that people have feelings, Like he really is so excited to tell you about the fact that like you have to have any sort of like internal drive or like thought behind your actions. He's like, did you know? Did you know that sometimes you have to say sorry and then also act different?
He was born in Jamestown, New York. His parents owned a bar and his dad was the DJ and the bartender and the host. And they lived upstairs. They lived with the grandparents. My parents and their friends were big drinkers. I'm not judging them. That's just the way they were when we were growing up. They then moved to Tampa when he was 6.
Wait, sorry, you skipped. Family legend has it, when I was 2 years old, I crawled into one of the Yankee Rebel liquor storage rooms where I was caught drinking for the first time.
That's funny. Funny story. So his parents end up moving to Tampa and buying a nursing home where they like take over the care of the nursing home inmates. Leslie is born, and then Aaron and Angel are born a year and a half later. Right away, because his parents are working full time at the nursing home, Nick is put in charge of all the younger siblings. And he says he remembers when Angel and Aaron were born, going in and seeing the 2 cribs and going, oh no, now I have 2 more to take care of. And I will say that is he would have been 9.
Yeah. He says that like now a therapist has been like, you know, when you're 9 years old, it's illegal
to like leave you home alone with 4 children.
And he is kind of fair in his response of being like, okay, but I still was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what does it make a difference that it was illegal? It just is what they were doing. And I was a 9-year-old who didn't know that I should have like called the cops on my parents and been sent to foster care. Like,
yeah. So his parents are either working and he's in charge at 9, or they're home fighting, drinking. Sad to say, but some of the best times in our childhood were when my parents were drunk and partied, because at least then they weren't fighting. Of course, sooner or later, an argument would start and things would turn ugly.
So his parents used to always threaten to divorce each other, and they would start screaming and then come into his room. Him and BJ were the 2 oldest, and they would say, we're going to get a divorce. Which one of us do you want to live with?
And he also says, fear was an everyday part of our household. My dad ruled by intimidation. We never saw physical violence between my parents, but my dad would spank me with a belt in front of the littler kids. I was always the example. So he gives a couple of moments of what was going on, but I still feel like I'm not getting a full picture and I'm not understanding what led up to this. And I guess because he doesn't really get into the drama of what it is to be a young child star, he barely touches on that. He barely touches on it for Aaron. It's all about how he's forgiven everybody and he's taken accountability. And I guess because that's the whole point of this book, it doesn't leave a lot of room for explaining what he's forgiving.
Yeah. So he does talk about how eventually his parents did get a divorce when he was 23. So at that point, Aaron, I think, was a few years into his career. And the biggest battle in their divorce was who was going to get custody of Aaron, because he
was the moneymaker.
And Aaron actually was emancipated when he was 15.
After a couple of horrible years with the mother, I think.
Mm-hmm.
During their fallout, he made public comments about her mother stealing $100,000 from him. I can't imagine that was the extent of it.
Yeah.
You can make a strong case that I had fewer reasons for turning to drugs and drinking than anyone else in my family. My career with the Backstreet Boys and the financial rewards that came with it should have given me enough fulfillment and motivation to stay straight. Something very interesting about this book is that he keeps being like, I really had no reason to be upset. I really had no reason to be sad. Like, at the end of the day, it's so funny because I had so much going for me and everything's so great and I'm so lucky. And the people who love me the most are the ones that are helping me get my career back on track. And I'm like, I wonder where that comes from. I wonder if that comes from this being his comeback book and him wanting to show the fans he's grateful. I wonder if that comes from him being still so groomed by the people around him who are making money off of him, that he doesn't know that just because music is your passion, and of course life is easier with more money, the people that are quickest to get you back in the studio and back on tour aren't necessarily the people with your best interest in mind.
Yeah. So because I don't think he ever went to any sort of formal rehab or treatment center, I don't think he understands addiction at all. I just think for him to sit here and be like, yeah, I don't know why I turned to drinking while every single person in his family has a substance abuse problem. I don't know that you turned to drinking to cope. I began drinking heavily in my teens and moved to drugs at 18 or 19, starting with marijuana and moving up to cocaine, ecstasy, and prescription painkillers, among other substances. He says, don't worry, I'm not saying marijuana is a gateway drug. I'm just saying it was my first drug.
He then goes on to say it is a gateway drug. But he's like, but the real gateway was my childhood and the environment my parents created for my brothers, sisters, and me. I'm not saying I'm the victim of bad parenting or that it's an excuse for my own mistakes, but
you had bad parents.
You get to be a victim when you're a child. Children are victims because they don't have agency.
Like now as an adult, the women you've hurt are the victims, but as a kid, you were a victim.
It's funny because then you'll have paragraph after paragraph and whole sections of just like telling you what to do. Like, don't worry, everyone has skeletons in their closet, but you just got to go through them. He finally went to therapy as an adult. I fought the idea of going to therapy for a long time. It seemed like something for messed up people or for someone with more money than sense. That's you, dude. That's you on both counts.
The truth is, a therapist doesn't handle your problems for you. A therapist gives you tools so that you can help yourself. So he explains that, you know, not everyone needs therapy, but almost anyone could benefit from therapy. This is like 4 pages.
And then he goes on to explain about why your past is important to understanding your present, which sounds stupid, but I used to work with a girl who was saying that she went to therapy one time to talk about a relationship. And she goes, yeah, it was so dumb. I showed up and the first thing my therapist wanted to talk about was like, well, what was your parents' relationship like? She goes, what the hell does that have to do with me? And so she stopped going. And I was like, oh, interesting. We're on very different TikToks.
I never stopped to ask why I was being so self-destructive and angry. It never occurred to me to look at where I'd been, where I was headed, and where I wanted to end up in life. At one point, he was in a relationship when he was in high school with a girl. He ended up living with her family.
Okay, so I looked up his girlfriends, and it seems like this girl went on to be thrown in jail because at 23 as a teacher, she started having a sexual relationship with a 14-year-old boy. I'm pretty sure that's who he lived with.
Yikes.
That was his one non-famous normal girlfriend.
And that relationship turned so toxic that he became physically ill. I developed a cough that wouldn't go away. My complexion turned gray, and I was afraid that there was something seriously wrong with me.
I do wonder if that was just like, if that was compounding. Because if by the time he's 12, he's a famous celebrity and he's moved out of his parents' you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm sure the relationship was bad. And what else was going on in your life?
I guess I don't even mean to blame the relationship entirely. I just mean that for him to sit here and be like, I didn't even realize I would need therapy at 15 years old. He was like living with his girlfriend and world famous and like having a psychosomatic reaction.
So then he goes through what baggage is. You guys know about baggage, right? I don't have to describe it for you. And then he talks about no longer being a victim, that it's really helpful to get out of victim mode. Challenges pop up now and then for all of us. There may be times when you feel like troubles are just coming at you one after the other. One positive way to look at this is it's just part of being alive. Think about it. The only time you won't have some sort of challenge is when you're dead and buried.
You and I can choose the lives we want. Each of us has that power.
He has, I mean, truly, pages and pages of explaining why you need to look at your past in therapy to get through your present and how that helps you with tools. One of his many metaphors is if you go to Google Maps on the internet, you first have to establish where you are before you can map out where you want to go.
Oh.
And then he lets you know you have to be honest in therapy or it doesn't work.
Remember the opening scene I described in the introduction? I was standing on stage in Central Park with the reunited Backstreet Boys. Thousands of people were cheering. The sun was shining. Kevin was with us again. I wanted to drop to my knees and scream with joy and gratitude. This is about how he hit rock bottom so that he could get back up to that top. And sometimes hitting rock bottom is good because that's like the end. You have to know where the rock bottom is in order to like be grateful for the top. But the way he does this thing where he'll like reference early chapters by being like, do you remember when I told you this? And then retell you the entire thing. I'm like,
I mean, just to have it after every chapter, the fact that he has a page where you can do your personal notes. I'm like, so this was a blog. This was a blog post that stretched. While my parents didn't teach me much in the way of values and life principles, I did learn those things from reading books and witnessing the examples of friends like Kevin and Brian.
So Kevin and Brian are religious and like watching them care about God. He's not a God guy. He calls God Pops and sometimes prays to Pops, but he like likes the boundaries of a God type. You have to set guidelines for yourself. They very well could save your life. I guess it's things like that where I am like, okay, he has no internal morals and beliefs. He like really needed someone to tell him each thing.
Yeah, but of course, he got famous at 12.
I know.
Like, and when would he have learned? Like, when would he have learned about other people? By the time he had an entire staff, like he got a staff before you're expected to really get yourself to school every day.
Yeah, I think it's really sad.
So he always loved music. I could tune out my parents' arguments, get lost in a melody, and disappear into my own world. He's like, we were all really bad at school because all we did was scream at each other at home. Even BJ, who had good grades for a while, like really broke down.
Yeah, he says every single one of the Carters was like horrible at school because they just couldn't sit still. They came from such a stressful environment that they would get to school and just like freak the fuck out.
My parents always said that I was a natural born ham. Mom has written that sometimes she feared I was overly needy and starved for attention. When I think about it, there may be some truth to that as she and dad worked so hard and weren't around very much.
Money was always an issue. When I started to develop my performing skills, dad would blow up over the cost of my singing and dance coaches. One of the incentives for me to work harder and harder was my desire to make up those expenses. So his mom was obsessed with Simon and Garfunkel, and one day she hears him singing Bridge Over Troubled Water and is like, hold on, you're amazing. We have to get you into the circuit. So they start driving between Tampa and Orlando pretty regularly for talent competitions. He starts going to vocal training and dance class. He's like the one boy in this dance troupe that performs at Tampa Bay Bucks halftime shows. It's like a bunch of girls. They're called like the Swashbucklers and that boy. He gets cast in a school play of Phantom of the Opera last minute because the main boy drops out. And he says this is like the first time his family ever has happiness, that his dad actually helps to build the chandelier. His mom is helping with costumes.
The whole family comes and watches. And it's very Jessica Simpson. It's a
Yeah.
similar story of, I, the 8-year-old performer, can maybe save this family through song and dance.
My parents are screaming at each other, what can I do? And it pans over. Competition, win a happy family.
Yeah. I was going to say it's very 80s. Like, oh my God, the private equity guys are going to buy the ski mountain. The only way to do it is to have a competition and win enough money to buy the ski mountain back.
So performing at halftime, it felt right. It made me happy. I could spend hours and hours singing and playing the guitar.
In some ways, I'd found an even larger and more reliable family, my musical family. I felt comfortable and welcome. I felt as if I belonged. I'm sure it was nice for him just to have a place to go where people weren't screaming.
Yeah, he also says you have to be your own source of encouragement and motivation. You can't look for external validation. Totally. Anyway, so he is in the finals for the Mickey Mouse Club, but then he also gets invited to the finals for like a boy band that was forming from a guy named Lou Pearlman. And he, it turns out, was not the first person they offered, but the other person backed out. He chose to pursue the boy band over the Mickey Mouse Club. And luckily, he was the second choice for the boy band. And he becomes a Backstreet Boy.
He had no idea that they were going to give him $50,000 to be in the Mickey Mouse Club. He's like, thank God you didn't tell me. I would have picked wrong.
Yeah.
Or right. I mean, have things gone great? Of course, between all of these little actual personal anecdotes are long paragraphs and chapters almost devoted to explaining basic therapy and just like basic life things. So there's this entire section called Bundle of Joy. You and I come custom equipped in much the same way. They don't call babies bundles of joy for nothing. My bundle was the musical performance package. You may be the tech geek package, the artist package, the engineer package, or the teacher package. I encourage you to identify and develop your strengths. I love this idea that he's like, everybody has a way to make money. Figure out what yours is so that you can be loved.
So in terms of figuring out what you like in order to be loved, it's like about the Joan Rivers thing of everyone gets a chance, but like, are you ready when the chance happens? He says, I was lucky, no doubt about it, but I was also ready to rock when luck arrived. You have to prepare yourself. I'd been working since the age of 8 to become what some people would call an overnight success.
Yeah, he got successful at 12.
Also, I'm sorry to be like, you have to work your ass off. I'd been trying so hard since I was 8 years old. This is something that we need to reflect on in therapy. Why were you an 8-year-old training around the clock? That's bad. That's like a bad, don't do that.
Also, why at 12 are you like, nobody's giving me my due? Like you're 12. And also he was pretty successful right away. He was already doing halftime shows for the NFL. So a story he tells maybe 75 times over again is that he was the bad boy of the Backstreet Boys and that he was literally the one who was doing so many drugs and drinking and had such a bad attitude and showing up late that he held them back a lot. And it sounds like one of the other ones had a problem too.
AJ went to rehab also.
AJ went to rehab also, but he keeps being like, even though we all had problems, I was the most problem. But you have to surround yourself with better people, and they made me better. This is whole book is basically being like, thank you, Backstreet Boys, for not kicking me out and letting me be here in Central Park with millions of people.
And can I say, damn right, he should write an entire book of gratitude for that. Why wouldn't they kick him out? The secret to attracting positive and supportive people in your life is simple. They will invest in you when you invest in yourself. So no victim mentality around here. Oh, for his 21st birthday, Kevin got him a self-help book.
But he says the first 8 years of being the Backstreet Boys were amazing. He had been dating Willa Ford, but they broke up in 2000. Since he figured he was getting to the age of 2021, and that's when people should be like drinking and partying. They also at this point had ended their contract with Lou Pearlman. People called them ungrateful, but actually it turned out he'd been taking a double helping of our earnings. Our contract paid him once as our manager and again as the 6th member of our group. We'd been grateful for all quote unquote Big Papa had done early on to help the band. But over time, we all came to see that Pearlman was not the benevolent father figure he appeared to be when we first signed our management agreement with him.
But he does specify that Lou Pearlman never sexually assaulted them.
That's just a rumor. But he is like, it was another father figure in my life who let me down. But this brings us to our new thing, our new lesson.
Mistakes. Or some people might call them blooper reels. Everyone makes mistakes, and so you can look at it and you can laugh and you can learn.
Therapists have told me that one of the secrets to dealing with all mistakes and failures is not to personalize them. Honestly, I don't know that you could choose to not take a mistake personally. Whenever I mess up, my first instinct is to kick myself. I agree with him. Who made the mistake if not you?
That's so true.
How do you learn for something that you don't take accountability for? He's like, but you can't blame other people.
I kept messing up and letting my mistakes drag me down further and further. Many of my screw-ups were understandable or even avoidable. I was so young when we began touring the world. So one of his big mistakes was drunk driving. Or no, first he was drunk and disorderly.
And he like kind of fought a cop a bit. I guess this book is also like, what are the 3 things I can acknowledge publicly? He doesn't give you anything other than what has already been found out. So he's out drunk in Tampa. He's always in Tampa. He's like, I just didn't recognize that the guy was a cop. But then once I was in the back of the cop car, I realized what was going on and I felt really bad. But of course, he also takes full accountability and he doesn't blame anybody but himself.
I remember crying on the way to the station. I was so embarrassed.
He also realized that the problem is that he was being self-sabotaging, in part because I didn't feel like I deserved the fans' respect and affection. They loved me, but I didn't much love myself at that point.
He gets arrested the first time. He's also just like drinking and partying a ton. And he also decides to put out a solo album at this time. He has like a lot of pent up anger and sorrow. And it does not sound like these are good shows.
But he's like, it was important for me
to like get on stage and scream.
Just therapeutically to get these lyrics out.
I didn't appreciate all that being in the group had done for me. I was more focused on what I thought I'd lost. And so this is where he does open up very slightly about feeling like he didn't get to have a childhood and how like part of what fueled his partying initially was that he was like, well, I didn't go to college. I didn't get like normal teenage years. So like I get to let loose. And he like resented not having normal experiences. But he doesn't really get into that so much as just kind of like skim that just is something that happened.
When you fail to learn from your mistakes, you don't only repeat them, you inevitably crash and burn. I was headed for such a crash and burn after my 21st birthday. Nobody was trying to shoot me down. I was the one piloting my own plane, so to speak, and heading for certain disaster.
In some respects, I'm glad my solo career didn't take off with that album. Who knows what might have happened? I might not have made the decision to change my lifestyle and behavior. So he does credit like being a part of the Backstreet Boys team with like one of his motivations to stop partying. But also he says that he realized doing his own stuff, how much you have to do. And he was like, I didn't like that I had to like make the whole album and do the whole tour.
He gives you one piece of advice. He says, even if you disregard the other pieces of advice I give you in this book, please take to heart my warnings about ecstasy. This is a drug that can destroy your brain and ruin your life. I guess he did a lot of E.
I think he did
very
so much E. He also dated Paris Hilton at this time, which was like a really unpleasant experience for him because they were just too different.
Paris Hilton was probably the worst person in the world for me to hook up with at that time. And of course, I did just that.
Then he goes on to be like, no, I'm not saying Paris is a bad person. I'm just saying it like wasn't good for me then.
And it's because she was so rich and privileged and didn't know about hard work and thought money grew on trees. And like he thought that all the people she knew were soulless and she didn't pay enough attention to him. And also Paris just saw me as a celebrity and therefore as her type.
But no hate on Paris. She's a great girl.
This is very funny. He remembers the time he went to a Diddy party, a Diddy White party that she co-hosted. He goes, the whole time she was just talking to other people. I might have had a better experience if I hadn't gone with her. I felt that night as if I was just being looked at as her boy toy. I'm sure that if I went back to that place now by myself with my new healthier lifestyle and mentality, I probably would fit in better.
I'm sorry.
I hope you don't.
I'm sorry that you felt like Paris Hilton's arm candy at the Diddy White party.
Also, I love being like, give me another shot at it. I think I could become part of Diddy's inner posse. I think I get along with those guys.
So then he gets the opportunity to act, which has been a really big goal of his. He was in a movie called The Hollow. And instead of taking it seriously and as the major opportunity that it was, instead he like partied really hard every single night and showed up just looking like hungover and fucked up every single day.
This book is so weird because you know that he had a lot of lows. And for some reason, this story particularly, he's like, I was so blackout drunk that I went home and I ate a whole box of Cheerios. And I'm like, okay.
I guess it's a low because he feels that this is why his acting career didn't take off. And like a low in his life currently is that he's not also a movie star. Just as like the Paris Hilton thing was a bad night for him because a low in his life is that he's not part of Diddy's gang.
He also is like mixing a lot of pills with alcohol, and every single night he goes to bed and he can feel his heart like stopping. And he's like, I was just getting so paranoid from the drugs and alcohol that I always thought I was about to have a heart attack. And I was like, I know that's paranoia or just like common sense.
Yeah. He had this one night where he was so blackout drunk, he was just like laying on the floor of the bathroom being like, Satan might not be that bad.
But he was in a public bar bathroom.
So everyone was watching him be like, I kind of love Satan. And then he leaves.
Why is evil so evil these days?
And then he tries to leave and the valet won't give him his keys. And so he like tricks the valet into giving him his keys.
Well, he says, well, this guy will drive in my entourage. And then, of course, as soon as they pull out 2 blocks, the entourage boy and Nick switch spots and he starts driving. Immediately, the cops come. It's 7:30 p.m. He's like, yeah, it was pretty early in the evening relatively, but we had been drinking since breakfast.
10 pages later, he goes, I didn't really drink before like 6 ever. I thought I had it under control.
Well, like, yeah, he's like, I was never waking up and just chugging vodka. And I'm like, well, not immediately. You probably brushed your teeth first. And then you had cups of vodka, like sippingly.
Sippingly indeed. It's just so crazy that he can talk about getting like a 7:30 p.m. DUI after a full day of drinking and be like, I wasn't like the kind of person who drank all day. So the court mandates AA meetings. He goes and is like, this is fine. It's like an interesting concept, but it's not super. He won't say anything bad about AA because, like, again, if it works for you, it works for you. And he's very aware that for some people it works, but he doesn't like it. His whole
thing is that, like, you should be doing all these things, but he can't.
Yeah.
Except for therapy. Therapy works.
I finally hit rock bottom one night in 2006.
I was 26 years old, and for nearly half my life, I've been tunneling my way deeper and deeper into denial's dark crevice.
So he keeps on just like drinking a ton and then doing like a fuck ton of cocaine. He'd be like, we would drink until we could like barely move. And then we would do a ton of cocaine so that we could move.
He calls it his night of zombies because they're doing this until the sun comes up. And then he walks out of the club. It's like 7:30 a.m. Kids are going to school. All the people I see have glazed looks on their faces. Their eyes are like glass. They seem soulless and mindless like zombies. The scariest part of these running mental images is that I look just like them. I'd become a zombie too. So this is his like rock bottom as he's running around zombie-like.
I rationalized my heavy drinking by saying I didn't do it every day, nor did I do it before 6 o'clock at night. The truth is, you can hide from demons, but you can't hide from the consequences. If you're acting like the king or queen of denial when it comes to binge drinking or drug abuse, you certainly aren't alone.
I found my cell phone and called my publicist. I need to check into rehab. Will you take me? I guess this definitely isn't how it happened, right? There's no way he just was like, oh, I felt gross after partying all night. I need to go to rehab. I guess it doesn't even matter because it doesn't happen. He goes to Promises Malibu. He sees a bunch of celebrities. He goes, this isn't for me. So instead he comes up with his own idea.
He loves Cool Springs, Tennessee. They went there one time for some like recording or something like that. And he loved it there. And so he buys a house in Cool Spring, Tennessee and goes there to make his own rehab.
He does a whole interlude about how you have to have good people around you. And he doesn't even call them enablers. He calls them disablers because they disable you from being able to pursue your dreams, even though he takes full accountability.
Anyway, so he talks about how the people that he knew in LA were just like disablers, I guess. People he knew in Tampa partied too much, but in Tennessee, it was like musicians and I think like religious people. And so he felt like if he went there, he'd be able to detox himself and like walk back the partying. I wanted to stop partying and getting wasted, but I was afraid to. As much as I longed to make a change, I didn't know what life would be like if I gave up these dependencies. My relationships with my family members weren't going well, and I hadn't found a girlfriend yet who seemed interested in anything other than my celebrity status.
So I headed to the hills of Tennessee to find the person I wanted to be. Fate must have taken me to Cool Springs because my home there turned out to be the perfect place to escape what had become a very negative environment. There, I was able to focus on moving my life in a more positive direction. Sometimes change is good. Sometimes it is absolutely necessary. In so many ways, my Tennessee home served as my rehab center. So he doesn't do rehab, but he moves to Tennessee and he starts reading self-help books and working on his music. And he finds out about goals.
Yeah, he like writes down a ton of goals and he kind of mind bends himself into quitting smoking by like wearing a t-shirt to sleep every night that says, I don't want to smoke.
He's a big visualizer. He loves a self-help book. He loves a vision board. He loves mantras.
Oh, it says, I do not like smoking. This is not me. And so every night before he would go to bed, he would look at himself in the mirror wearing a t-shirt that says, I do not like smoking. This is not me.
And it worked. He stopped smoking, I think, for
like a while at least.
Maybe. He smokes less. So then he teaches you how to make goals, make sure it's something you have control over, be your own best friend.
My goals weren't pie in the sky things. I wasn't trying to become Mr. Universe. I just wanted to work on getting back in better shape so I didn't look like a slob on stage or at photo shoots.
So he's really into saying his goals out loud, repeat them a lot. He talks to Pops, his true father, my creator, and we have a special relationship. He writes down all of his goals on a whiteboard, and then he's like, I actually got pretty busy right away, so I didn't even look at the whiteboard again for a year. But a year later, when I did look at it, I had done all my goals.
So that's really great.
Yeah, you guys ever thought about having goals?
And then doing them?
We'll get into it later, but one of his goals is like an eating disorder, and it sounds like he got there.
Yay. Congratulations. So you may have heard of a TV show called The House of Carters. It was an 8-episode reality show, 1 season.
It was like a predecessor to The Valley in that it was one of the few shows that reality TV execs went, this is too fucked up, man. This is actually way too fucked up. Can you believe we had a reality show about celebrities screaming at each other and everybody was like, we have to take this down. This isn't good for the viewer.
So he talks about growing up with his siblings. I'd always try to patch things up and make everyone happy and restore peace. I'd always confided that one of the motivations for my early music career was the fact that my performances brought us all together as a family. So he's trying to figure out ways to bring his family back together.
He thinks of himself as a fixer. And when the big earnings started to flow in from my Backstreet Boy performances, I became both fixer and financier for my family, including my parents. But I quickly saw that I was just subsidizing bad behavior and creating more conflict.
So at a few points, he's referred to as something of a control freak. Because I took on the role of surrogate parent to my brother and sisters doesn't mean they always welcomed my efforts in that regard. All too often, they've called me control freak. My problem isn't that I wanted to be in control, but I wanted to control the wrong things. Oh. He didn't want to be in control. He wanted to be in control of
people
things.
When he should have been in control of what? I don't know. Anyway, again, the problems with his siblings come from the conflict of him caring too much.
So anyway, he comes up with an idea to help everybody, and that is to have them all star in a reality show together.
My most public effort to do so was when I brought us all together to appear on House of Carters, a 2006 reality show that mercifully lasted only for 8 episodes. It originally aired on the E-Cable network and on Much Music in Canada.
Going into the show, the plan seemed solid, a win-win for the whole family. None of us minded being in the spotlight, so that wasn't a problem.
I have to read this quote. I'd seen what reality shows had done for Nick Lachey and Jessica Simpson. What had it done for them? They got divorced. It divorced them. Sorry, keep going.
Going into the show, the plan seemed solid, a win-win for the whole family. None of us minded being in the spotlight, so that wasn't the problem. Aaron and I had our fair share of media attention already, but our sisters often wished for their own experiences in the celebrity world. This seems like the perfect way to make it happen for them. Oh, everyone was unfulfilled because they weren't famous, and so this show would make them all famous.
Perfect. That's what this family was lacking in. Enough fame. That's why they were so broken. They just weren't famous enough.
Exactly.
More fame and money would be helpful. He's like, we just didn't know that a lot of families don't scream at each other all the time. We just thought that that's how everyone talked. So we just scream. It's not a big deal, but that's just how we talk. He also says that the problem between him and Aaron was really that Aaron was just in that phase of life you go through where you have bad people around and he wouldn't listen to Nick's advice, even though Nick, I think, had not a fucking pot to piss in. Like, I don't know where he... It's really hard to tell the chronology of this story if like Nick was even sober telling Aaron that he had enablers around him, or if he was like showing up with his entourage being like, your friends suck and they're using you. My friends are good and they steal from me.
This is the kind of guy who always has your back. He's always going to get your keys back from the valet.
So that you can drunk drive. A good friend.
One who knows your limits, that you have none. Our parents had divorced. Kevin Richardson had left Backstreet Boys. I'd been arrested for a DUI. My binge drinking and drug abuse were out of control, and I'd bounced from one meaningless relationship to the next. It was as if I was Mr. Fix-It with an empty tool belt. What?
I like this.
What?
The problem was that I really hadn't figured out at that point how to get back on the right path, but I wanted my brother and sisters to look in the mirror too. Creating a reality show was my... Are you okay?
When you skip from quote to quote, it's so insane. I feel like I wish that we should include him explaining what like journaling is.
Okay, back to my quote. The problem was that I really hadn't figured out at that point how to get back on the right path, but I wanted my brothers and sisters to look in the mirror too. Creating a reality show was my way of holding a mirror up to our family and to each of them as individuals so they'd come to the realization I'd come to. That something had to change, that we weren't the people of the family we wanted to be.
Nick
I love that.
Carter, you're a hero.
I wanted to publicly shame my family into getting sober by showing them that they were pieces of shit compared to me.
They didn't party as good as I did because I was making money while I did it.
So something really great that came out of the House of Carter was that it really taught him that like maybe he yells too much. I now pause and think before I lash out. I take a breath, weigh my responses, and choose how I will act rather than letting my emotions direct my actions. My therapist taught me about that. He was like, the problem with my siblings is that they don't understand what the things that they said and did on television will never go away. I'm like, they're not idiots. I think they understand.
Yeah, he also talks about how this show like made his siblings think that they were a lot more famous than they actually were. And so they started like acting worse because they were like, great, now we're famous alcoholics.
The other problem is that ETV had rented them this giant mansion in the hills so they could all live together. And he's like, they just started using it as a party house. I guess that mirror really didn't work.
I realized that we shared many of the same character flaws. We were all very defensive. We all wanted to be loved and appreciated, even though we quickly put up walls when we feel threatened, criticized, or rejected in any way. But let's not at all talk about parenting.
Thankfully, my life and my relationships have dramatically improved since then because I've given up trying to control others and took responsibility for controlling myself. It's a big change for me, and I can't say that I've mastered either part of the equation yet, but I've made progress and I continue to work on it.
Sure.
And he's like, I think things with me and Aaron are about to start getting good. But now he still has to wonder, like, why do I hate myself? So he's learned that if you change who you are, like, people around you will change, and that when he started getting sober and being more reliable, that people who had been over his bullshit started coming back into his life. Like, the good people started coming out of the woodwork and the bad people left. It's sad. He is like, I just wish me and my family could get along.
It really is sad. So they're on a world tour with the Backstreet Boys. He is a few months out of his self-imposed rehab in Cool Springs, Tennessee, and binge drinking harder than ever. And he goes, you don't understand, I was in Russia.
And then he does like pages of facts about the drinking of Russia. And he's like, they drink so much there.
And also he's like, you don't understand, my body was catching up because I'd spent so many months not drinking that now I had to drink double.
And I do understand. He's like, you don't understand how hard it is to be on tour where you're like traveling constantly. You have no set schedule. You're really busy. And then you're home and you're doing nothing. To go from being like all in unhealthy to being idle is really tough.
Of course. And I do think that these are the benefits of, it's still not always going to work, but like a treatment program that's like teaching you about sobriety.
I mean, that being said, I will say, like, I don't know, the track record of rehab also seems pretty.
Yeah. I guess I still think like inventing your own rehab and like, I mean, at this point, I guess maybe adding ChatGPT, if only that had been around, would have been helpful for him.
Thank God Nick Carter didn't have access to ChatGPT before this book.
I just feel like if you're inventing your own treatment for like your perceived problems, I think that there are really a lot of benefits to having someone else involved in helping you.
Well, I do think he has a therapist. That's his whole thing, that he has a therapist finally.
Yeah.
I think the fact that this book at all even says the right things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the fact that he knows about accountability and like looking at your past and
yeah, that's true.
Acceptance and forgiveness.
That's true. So his heart is stopping.
Yeah. He like always has an excuse for why he has to drink right now. It's because his bandmate Howie's dad died. So he's like, all I could do was drink because of my grief. I was like, did you know him?
Yeah. So he goes to the doctor because he's been binge drinking like crazy. And the doctor is like, yeah, you have, I think it's cardiomyopathy.
Mm-hmm. And he's like, I go in for 2 days of tests. And the whole time the doctor's just like, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
And so then he's like, okay, come back tomorrow and we'll talk about your diagnosis. And he was like, okay, I should party hard tonight because tomorrow I'm getting diagnosed.
Anyway, then he's like, yeah, you're going to die, dude, but you could still undo it if you start right now. So he gets really into like drinking less and eating healthy. This is when he develops his eating disorder. He's like, I used to eat junk food all the time, but now I know that even an apple has 65 calories. So that's a lot of calories and you shouldn't even really be eating an apple. He goes, I have this website where I look up every single calorie of every single food so I can add it up all the time and make sure I'm never overeating.
Yay, good.
I also visualized myself getting thinner and I thought every day about how much better I would feel and look when I lost my gut and excess body fat. Then he talks about like the high of doing healthy things and that actually it feels way better. He goes, why did I think doing ecstasy was a better reward than listening to my favorite music while working out? And I will say, I've never actually done ecstasy, but I imagine it is like a lot more fun than working out.
A way better reward.
I mean, I was in a workout today and the music was awesome. And I still was like, I hate a plank. I hate a plank position.
I had like a really lovely run today. And if I had been on ecstasy, it would have been so fun.
Maybe that's the common ground. Maybe that's the compromise.
Exercise while high.
Yeah.
Okay. So he clarifies that Backstreet Boys had never actually broken up, but one of the members had left and they had like done less work for several years because, well, Nick was fucked up. AJ was going to rehab.
But we weren't broken up. We were just decimated.
When he was partying really hard, he would just not show up to rehearsal or recording ever. And at one point, the manager implemented a $1,000 penalty for every time you were late to rehearsal or the recording studio. And at the end of the session, he had $60,000 worth of penalties.
And he was like, that really hit home for me, how stupid it was to be late all the time.
60 times? That's so
like,
much
how long
lateness.
does it take to make a record? Didn't Benson Boone do his whole album in a week?
I thought he did it this morning. He was backflipping for a week.
I mean, that's amazing. That's incredible. I love this paragraph. And by love, I mean hate. But for all the wonderful things that came my way, I didn't have that sort of backup. I don't want to rehash all the stuff I've told you already about my challenges and my parents. The point I want to make here is that we all make mistakes and do stupid stuff, but it is possible to turn your life around. Well, I'm not all the way there yet. I'm much better than I was, and I'm working on it every day. There's something like so... Like, if he had amnesia and forgot he wrote this book, I feel like he'd read this book and be like, who the fuck is this book about? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. The words he uses are so, like,
this
nonsense.
is toxic positivity.
Yeah.
This is delusion and denial. This is insanity.
If there's one takeaway from this chapter, it's not over. Not until you're dead and buried. You can get sober, you can heal, you can reclaim your life. If you're willing to admit your mistakes, you can make the necessary corrections and repair the damage done to your relationships and your reputation. No, you can't. You, like, assaulted people.
So basically this whole chapter is him being like, yeah, I really fucked over the Backstreet Boys. I'm lucky they took me back. I guess the great thing about the Backstreet Boys is none of them ever had something else going on.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if it had been in sync and one of them was in rehab, one of them should have been in rehab.
Like, even JC Chazé would have been like, I'll just do another season of America's Best Dance Crew. This isn't worth it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, what are we going to get back together without Justin even? Like, they really had a shot at it because nobody else had anything else going on. So he's like, listen to people who care. He then says there are several younger performers who appear to be handling success well on their own terms. I don't know Justin Bieber, and maybe things will change for him down the road, but my impression is that he's pretty well grounded.
That's on business.
It's not clocking to you that Justin Bieber is pretty well grounded. And then he's like, you know what it turns out? Having good intentions isn't enough. If you fuck over everybody all the time, your good intentions don't matter.
Yeah, you have to actually have good actions.
This is a funny sentence. I've also tended to reach out to people with grand gestures like the reality television show, when in truth, it's the little things you do for people that really build trust and mutual respect.
I can't believe the way he's, like, standing on business that reality show was a kind effort.
He's really treating it like a fucking fruit basket he brought to a bris. He's just like, I brought you a reality show and you're acting like what I did was rude.
You guys were at rock bottom and I said, what if we put this on television? I think this would make good TV. And you're acting like that wasn't the right call.
I can't believe that didn't make you healthier.
So he admits that he was a very passive member of Backstreet Boys for a long time, mostly because he was the youngest and then because he was kind of a train wreck.
Like, fucked up dist.
I will say it makes sense that, like, at 12 years old with 20-year-olds in the group, it makes sense that they were
and
like
adults. Like, they're writing also with professionals. You know what I mean?
They wouldn't be like, why don't you try your hand at writing a song? But now he's like, I had to prove myself as, like, a valuable member of the Backstreet Boys by writing the perfect Christmas hit.
So he wrote It's Christmas Time Again.
I mean, it's Footloose or what? It's like the Ski Mountain all over again. If I'm going to stay in the
one
band,
shot at Christmas time. And guess what? It's coming up again. Like, it's Christmas time. That's the song, right?
Yeah.
But to be like, it's Christmas time again is such a funny truth.
And it is.
Every year, it just keeps coming back.
They performed the show on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and Jimmy said backstage, I loved the song.
It is a hit.
Quote, I loved the song. End quote. Every time I create another song, I feel like I grow as a person and artist. It would be great if It's Christmas Time Again became a classic, but what really mattered at the time is that I proved to the other guys in the group and myself that I could be trusted and relied upon.
And happy holidays.
Oh my God, I can feel my fingers itching to buy a car already.
Why Honda days?
I don't know, I just like the holidays.
Is when you get a car? Have you ever gotten a car in the holidays?
Yeah, Honda days.
You've gotten a car at...
No, but if I ever did, I think that that's when I'd buy it.
And then his grandpa died, which is sad, but really helpful for this book because it gave him like 4 pages to be like, listen to the story of my grandpa. I'm like the one who beat your mom when she was a kid. And
Grandpa Spaulding.
he says, I really think it's important to have someone to look up to. So if you don't have anyone to look up to, like pick somebody from work. And then he gets into the cure for victimization and blame is forgiveness. He's like, don't be a victim. Do forgive. Try being grateful. Have you ever tried being grateful?
Try being Grandpa Spaulding.
It takes time. Now that I'm seriously working on being a better person and building a better life, my mission is to never get too comfortable. I want to keep challenging myself, especially by doing things that mentally strengthen me and expand my horizons. Acting is one of those things I want to try again.
I hope he gets the chance.
You know who's great people? Actors. He also has a girlfriend for the first time in a really long time. And he's like, we've been together for 4 years. I never thought that would be possible. Good news. She's a former addict and a current bodybuilder, just like me.
So now we can spend all of our quality time together, making sure neither of us eats too much. My connection with Lauren is healthier than any I've had because it's based on our shared desire to be better and to live more meaningful lives. I'd become jaded. I'm jaded.
That's a Patreon reference. He proposed to her in February of 2013. I wonder what happened with that relationship. He wants to take her out on this boat he has in Fort Lauderdale. And he goes, I hadn't been there in 8 years. When we got there, guess what? It turns out you can't just leave a boat in the water for 8 years. Yeah, that's like boating 101, dude.
They fix it up in 3 days so that he can still boat her to Engagement Island, an island he named. It's a secret.
This book is one result of that commitment. I've tried to make it clear throughout these pages that I don't see myself as wiser or more evolved than anyone else. It's quite the opposite. The more I learn, the more humble I feel because there's so much more out there beyond my grasp. Anyway, he hopes that somebody gets to learn something from this book and maybe he'll save another person and he wants to just keep being a better guy.
Oh, I don't think he did.
What a weird book. What a weird, what was that?
I don't know.
How many warm teens would you like to have with Nick Carter?
I would cover my empty glass anyway.
How fertile would you say the soil was?
Oh my God.
Like 0.5?
Yeah.
Weird. Okay, so this week on the Patreon, we are going to watch the Carter documentary, and maybe if we can get our hands on House of Carter, I'd be interested to see a couple minutes.
On YouTube.
And you guys, we'll see you next week. Check back in.
You guys, we're so excited to see you next week.
And I guess this is your penultimate chance to be our favorite worms. Who do we love the most this week?